Every one of your team members, if they are high performers, are looking for feedback from you. It's your responsibility to prepare that feedback. If you think that they don't want feedback or you think that it's not important, you're very incorrect. Or you don't have high performers. Both of those things are issues. Do's and don'ts for performance reviews. Let's do this. First one, you prep beforehand. This sounds very straightforward. However, I was interestingly looking up our previous performance reviews that Brandon and I have done with our executive teams and our leadership teams over the last few years, because we are in the season of doing performance reviews and getting prepared. And I definitively remember over these past few years, Brandon and I taking the time to review each team member and preparing, hey, what are strengths of this person so that we can highlight those strengths, but also where are the areas of opportunity? In our environment and in an environment that I would think you would want to duplicate, we are so honest about, yes, targets were hit, the job was done, but oftentimes if you look at successful businesses, the success curve, somebody has success, the organization grows, and then there's this plateau. Well, the plateau happens because you don't do the things that you were doing when you had the success. When you had the success, you were being direct about what those areas of feedback were. Well, you cannot be direct with somebody about their annual performance if you're not really preparing what those notes and comments are. And when he and I go employee by employee for the performance reviews that we're doing, we're fully like digesting, okay, what happened in quarter one, what happened in quarter two, what happened in quarter three, so that we can properly prepare and ensure that these people are actually getting the information that they're looking for. Every one of your team members, if they are high performers, are looking for feedback from you. It's your responsibility to prepare that feedback. If you think that they don't want feedback or you think that it's not important, you're very incorrect. Or you don't have high performers. Both of those things are issues. So in our performance review process, like, we are intentional about doing the prep work on the front end. Do you have something you want to add to that?
No, I just went to the emergency business response. If you're lucky enough to have a bunch of employees,
if you were strategic enough to have a bunch of
employees. Well, no,
I
mean, a lot of people hire people non-strategically. They just throw people at problems and they amass a bunch of employees. It's hiring without specific purpose. And most novice business owners go through those cycles before they learn they need to hire for a specific purpose. Most people building a business are doing it through trial and error. So they hire people, they hope they work out. When they don't work out, they have to get rid of them, or worse, they let them sit on the payroll and they try to hire around them. And this goes on and on and on. And so doing these reviews, what Natalie's talking about is the more clear, more concise, more precise you are with what you're hiring for, what the contributions need to be, how you're going to hold your team accountable, and then how you're going to develop them. Because if your team's not on a development plan, then they might be good at the activities they're doing today, but as the business grows, they won't know how to grow with the business. When businesses are all of a sudden challenged and they have no choice, they have to get rid of people. There's a process that we talked about in the emergency business response, how to rank on operational effectiveness, leadership, and belief about what they can accomplish, what is attainable. And I was thinking to myself while you were talking, it'd be nice if people took the proactive side of this, of establishing high belief with their team members, establishing high operational effectiveness with their team members, and actually taught them the power of me, then we leadership, because they have a business owner who's putting their attention on those things and demonstrating to the employee how to do it.
Do you remember in our original core values, in our performance review process, we're organized by which two core values were under belief, which two core values were under operational effectiveness, and which two were under leadership. So there's like this cohesiveness between how you use core values to reward people or fire people through a performance review process, but also this idea of like, how are you creating belief? How are you driving operational effectiveness? And then what is the team member's leadership, so that all three of those criteria were always checked.
And people need to know where they stand. I mean, most business owners started their business because they didn't want to be told what to do. They didn't want a job. They didn't want to be accountable. They didn't want a cap on their earnings abilities. They didn't want somebody dictating their time. And now they've got employees and they treat the employees the way they wanted to be treated. It's called the entrepreneurial dilemma. So what Natalie's walking you through here is how to make sure that your team understands how to succeed and how to perform. And I would just encourage you, if you're a founder, an entrepreneur, or business owner, communicating directly with your team on what this looks like is going to solve so many problems that you either currently have or you will have in the future.
Final item on this worksheet for the do's and don'ts around performance reviews is this idea of a development plan. So without going into like the full context, but one thing after a performance review is it's great to have a 1 hour, once a year conversation about growth and development. But if something isn't really clear and actionable that somebody can work on week after week to trend towards where they want to go, they're going to show up the next year to that exact same meeting and they won't grow. You're going to be frustrated. They're going to be frustrated. They want to raise. You realize that they didn't add any additional value. And so this development plan of taking in their feedback, you giving them feedback, coming up with an organized plan that encompasses both their and your feedback to say, okay, over the next year, I'm going to commit to developing myself in these areas. Ideally, those areas are in alignment with where their goals are, right? They need to develop all of these skills, these new beliefs, this ability to operate and leadership skills so that they can hit their targets. If they're too low, then they're not going to hit their targets and then they're still going to expect stuff. If they're too high, then why aren't their goals higher? So putting this development plan in place is the biggest step that most organizations entirely miss. They have a 1 hour conversation and that's not enough. Having this thing be visible, having a plan that you guys have communicated with each other around, you've gotten on the same page, and then you're moving into one-on-ones is how you actually create development and ascension inside your organization.
There's a question, do the worksheet done in a group or individual meeting?
Individual meeting. So all performance related items should be individual meeting. Now, if you have separate groups who want similar things, like we have a lot of people who want their project management certification, their PMP, and so we leverage the same materials so the organization doesn't have to pay 10 times over for this curriculum to allow all of our team members who are interested in getting their PMP certification, they can all access it. But I'm having those conversations and department heads are having those conversations individually. It's not as a group. Not a big fan of the whole group think thing.
And so I would just encourage you to download this worksheet. Could you pop that worksheet up again?
There it is.
There it is. Shoot that link.
This is the end of year performance review, do's and don'ts worksheet.